Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling, well, an absolutely epic-defining conflict. We're not just looking at a battle, we're plunging into the event that, simultaneously saved humanity from total extinction and kind of sealed its fate for the next 10,000 years. We're talking about the Siege of Terra.
This really is the inflection point. I mean, if you look at the whole history we've been exploring, this is it. It's the moment where that grand promise of the Great Crusade...
It's secular scientific vision?
Exactly. That brief, couple of centuries of rebuilding and hope, it was just violently, irreversibly shattered. The sheer scale, the brutality of the siege, it fundamentally defines everything about the Imperium that comes after. The structure, the trauma, all of it.
That's a perfect frame for it, because this is a tragedy of, almost mythical proportions. And to really get the weight of it, we should probably set the stage a little. The Great Crusade didn't just happen in a vacuum.
No, not at all. It was the answer to millennia of absolute collapse. The Crusade itself, it comes right after the Age of Strife.
Which is when the Emperor finally unifies Terra in the Unification Wars.
Right, and that Age of Strife was just this terrifying period that followed the collapse of something much grander, the Dark Age of technology. Some people call it the Golden Age of expansion, which is maybe a bit misleading.
And the fall of that age was apocalyptic, wasn't it? This wasn't just politics.
Oh, far from it. It was a perfect storm of disasters, really. You had the cybernetic revolt of the men of iron, humanity's own AI turning on them.
Right.
At the same time, you have the sudden emergence of dangerous, untrained psychers on a galactic scale. And then, the final nail in the coffin, these massive warp storms erupt, cutting off human worlds from each other for thousands of years.
Total isolation, leading to wars, regression.
Exactly. And the final trigger that sort of calmed things down enough for the Emperor to even begin the Great Crusade was the fall of the Eldar, the birth of Slaanesh.
Which is just the ultimate irony, isn't it?
It's the ultimate irony. The birth of a chaos god brings just enough stability to the warp for the Emperor to launch this grand project. So our focus today, it's the culmination of the betrayal of that project. The Siege of Terra in 0113.M31. The final fight that leads to the Emperor's crippling and the birth of the grim, desperate Imperium we know.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The Heresy itself raged across the galaxy for, nearly a decade before the traitors even got close to the Sol system?
About 9 years, yeah. From 005 to 0N0121M31.
So how did Terra, humanity's home, the center of everything, become this ultimate fortress?
It was a necessity, really, and it was down to the absolute defensive genius of one person, Primarch Rogel Dorn.
The Praetorian of
Praetorian. He had years to prepare while Horus was fighting his way across the galaxy. That whole prelude, the Solar War, which lasted from about 010 to 015. Dorn turned the entire Sol system into a layered killing field. Every planet, every moon was a bastion.
But those defenses were eventually broken.
They were. And when they broke fast. Horus's armada was just colossal, over 40,000 vessels. Once they actually arrived in system in 014, the speed of the collapse was shocking.
So all of Dorn's layered defenses
annihilated in less than 30 days. They took the outer system, destroyed the naval bases on Luna, and then Terra itself was just subjected to this devastating, relentless orbital bombardment. This wasn't precision striking. This was designed to break the will of billions of people.
So, with the shells falling, who was left on the ground? Inside that final fortress, the Imperial Palace, which is basically a continent in itself.
The defense was this incredible mix of forces. You had, of course, the Astartes legions, Rogel Dorn and his Imperial fists, the ultimate defenders. You had the Blood Angels led by the angel himself, Sanguinius, and the White Scars led by Jagatai Khan, who had to fight this whole brutal side war just to get back to Terra in time.
But 3 legions, even at full strength, can't hold a continent against the kind of numbers Horus was bringing.
No, they couldn't, not alone. That's why the sheer volume of other forces was so critical. We're talking billions of loyal Imperial army troopers fighting and dying in the trenches.
And the elite of the elite.
The Custodian Guard, the Emperor's personal guard, led by Constantin Valdor, 1,000 of them, and each one is worth, 100 Space Marines. And you can't forget the Sisters of Silence, the anti-psychers, who were absolutely essential for what was coming.
And the big guns. The Titans.
Massive war engines. The Collegia Titanica was there in force. You had Legio Ignatum, the Fire Wasp, Legio Solaria, numerous night houses. This was everything humanity had left, all concentrated in one place.
And facing them, 8 full traitor legions.
Yeah.
A horrifying lineup.
It's just an overwhelming force. Numerically, psychically, spiritually, you've got the Sons of Horus, Death Guard, World Eaters, Emperor's Children, Perturabo and the Iron Warriors, the Siege Masters, the Thousand Sons, Word Bearers.
Plus bits of the Night Lords and Alpha Legion, just to make things worse.
And that's just the Astartes. They're backed by the Dark Mechanicum, Traitor Army regiments, and these just vast, unimaginable hordes of demons and chaos cultists. The Lost and the Damned, the numbers were just terrifying.
So how did the Loyalists even survive that initial onslaught? What bought them time?
This is the key. The one thing that held the line in those early days was the Emperor's psychic power.
The shield.
His psychic shield. It was this colossal, planet-wide effort of will that acted as a barrier. And it was strong enough, initially, to keep the full power of the Daemon Primarchs, Angron, Mortarion, Magnus, from just walking into the palace and ending the war on day one.
But we have to remember, the Emperor wasn't exactly fresh for this fight. He was already suffering immensely before the first bomb even fell.
And that is the most critical piece of lore here. It sets the stage for everything that happens to him. This massive psychic effort was already weakening him because of what we call Magnus's folly.
Years earlier.
Years earlier, when Magnus the Red used sorcery to try and warn the Emperor about Horus's betrayal, he didn't just send a message. He shattered the psychic wards on Terra and created a massive, catastrophic warp breach deep inside the Imperial Palace.
Right in the middle of the Emperor's secret webway project.
Exactly. The project that was meant to be humanity's future, a way to travel the stars without the warp. Magnus's warning destroyed it. It forced the Emperor onto the Golden Throne, this vast biomechanical machine, just to physically hold that breach closed with his mind.
To stop Terra from being swallowed by demons from within.
Precisely. So when the siege starts, the Emperor is already fighting a war on two fronts. He's powering the psychic shield, protecting the palace from Horus's armies, while also using the Golden Throne to hold back this internal warp catastrophe. He was already near his limit. It was a race against time and his own sanity.
With that stage set, the conflict it devolves into this barbaric, grinding war of attrition. Meat grinder.
That's the perfect term for it. This wasn't a war of maneuver. This was a slow, horrific crawl where every single kilometer of the palace complex was fought for, inch by bloody inch.
And the tactics, orchestrated by Perturabo, they reflect that, don't they?
They do. It's relentless, grinding force. But what's fascinating is that Horus himself, the War Master, he stays in orbit. He's on his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, high above the whole thing.
Why? I mean, was that strategic or was it just arrogance?
A bit of both, I think, driven by his new masters in the warp. By staying up there, he could coordinate the entire battle, use his psychic might to influence things all over the planet, but it marked his transition, from general to this distant, godlike figure. He didn't need the trenches anymore.
He left the dirty work to Perturabo,
who ironically hated being relegated to Siege Master again. But yeah, he was the one on the ground figuring out how to crack the palace's outer shell.
So what was that core strategy? How do you break a shield powered by the Emperor?
It was a two-pronged assault, material and immaterial. The material side was just continuous high-intensity shelling, but the other side was far more insidious. The traitors used demon engines and these special warpbane guns.
So they weren't just shooting shells at the shield?
No. They were projecting sorcery at it. It was like a magical assault disguised as artillery. These weapons were designed to actively sap the psychic energies of the Aegis shield to unravel it.
And there were rituals, too.
Massive rituals. The word-bearer Zardulayak projected his face onto an island of bones outside the walls, urging the people of Terra to revolt. After his speech, it literally started raining blood. All of this collective effort, fueled by sacrifice, it finally caused the Aegis to flicker and fail.
And that's when the real ground assault could begin.
That's when the gates of hell truly opened. Direct bombardment, assaults by things like the Night Lord's Raptors, and the arrival of these massive, festering towers of Nurtle.
It must have been a devastating moment for the defenders, psychologically.
It was the moment they knew they were fighting the impossible. But that brings us to the heroism, to Sanguinius.
The angel. He leads a counterattack right when the outer lines are about to collapse.
He does. He sees the Imperial army conscripts are being overrun, that they need a chance to fall back. So he opens the Helios Gate and personally leads this massive counterattack with the Blood Angels and Imperial Fists.
A huge risk.
A calculated one. It was a noble sacrifice to buy time. It let the terrified army regiments retreat, and, more importantly, it allowed the loyalist titans to get into position to destroy those huge towers of Nurgle before they reached the inner walls.
And this leads to his most famous moment in the siege, the defense of the Eternity Gate.
Oh, that's just pure mythology brought to life. Sanguinius, standing on the battlements of the Eternity Gate facing down the bloodthirster Kabanda.
A greater demon of Khorne.
A creature of pure, focused rage. And this isn't just a physical fight, it's a duel of ideals. The angel, the image of perfection and hope, against this avatar of hate. For every defender on that wall, to see him win was just an unbelievable morale boost.
And he didn't just win, he did it spectacularly.
He did. He grappled with the creature, broke its back over his knee, and hurled its body back into the besieging armies. It was this profound act of defiance.
Of course, being a demon, Kabanda isn't truly killed.
No, just banished back to the warp for 1,000 years or so. But the psychological impact was priceless. It showed the loyalists that these literal gods of chaos could be thrown back.
But even with victories like that, the psychic assault on the Emperor just continued relentlessly.
Exactly. While Sanguinius is fighting demons on the walls, Horus and Magnus are launching these constant, coordinated psychic attacks against the Emperor's already strained barrier. Magnus was using this Gestalt daemon called Shaitan, trying to find any crack in the Emperor's will.
And there was even an attempt to stop Magnus physically, wasn't there?
Yeah. A desperate one. The Primarch Vulcan was sent deep into the ruined webway, the very place the Emperor was trying to seal with one mission: find and kill Magnus to stop the psychic onslaught.
That just shows how desperate they were.
It really does. Meanwhile, Perturabo knew brute force alone wasn't enough against Dorn. He needed sorcery, too. So he, along with Zardulayak and Abaddon, performed this deep ritual to summon a demon named Korvax Utterblight.
And that was aimed directly at the Emperor.
Directly at his psyche. The goal was to fracture the defense from within by breaking the Emperor's concentration on the Golden Throne.
So let's talk about the big pushes on the ground. Where did Perturabo focus his main effort?
The Lion's Gate spaceport. He saw it as the strategic linchpin. If they did take it, they could land their Titan legions directly inside the inner palace. The force he massed there was staggering. 25,000 Iron Warriors, 80% of their legion's armor, 1.5 million traitor troops.
And the first frontal assault was a disaster for them.
A complete disaster. It was just a blunt force attack led by the Iron Warrior Kroger, and Dorn was ready. The Imperial fists under Fafnir Ran executed this brilliant counter-sortie, created a perfect kill zone, and just decimated hundreds of thousands of them. Even Angron couldn't break through because of the Emperor's shield.
So how did they finally crack it?
Perturabo let Abaddon try an infiltration strategy. They used the chaos of the failed assault as a screen, seized the bridges leading into the Lion's Gate, and Abaddon and his sons of Horus finally got their heavy armor onto the landing fields.
And Abaddon also tried a similar sneaky move at another key point, the Saturnine Gate.
He did, using these huge assault drills, the Mantolith and the Plutona, to tunnel deep underneath the gate with his elite Justarin. But Dorn, being Dorn, had anticipated exactly that.
The ultimate countertrap.
A brutal ambush. He had kill teams waiting for them as they emerged. It was a slaughter. Several of Horus's most trusted captains died there. Aximand, Kibre, Tormageddon. Abaddon barely escaped with his life.
And Dorn sealed them in.
Famously sealed the breach with fast-drying sealant, just entombing hundreds of traitors alive.
While all this grinding warfare is happening, what are the Emperor's children doing? What's Fulgrim's contribution?
Well, they participated in the Saturnine assault, but they failed to break through, and they got bored with the drudgery of siege warfare. They weren't interested in military victory anymore. They were interested in excess, in sensation. So Fulgrim led most of his legion away from the front lines entirely.
To do what?
To commit just unimaginable atrocities against the civilian population outside the palace. Acts of such depravity that it forever corrupted the Terran people's view of all Astartes. They just abandoned the war for pure sadistic pleasure.
It just shows the total moral collapse. But the really apocalyptic fighting, the big machines, that was in the Mercury exulting kill zone.
That was hell on Terra. 150-kilometer deep no man's land. Horus threw everything he had at it, Legio Mortis, Dark Mechanicum, against what was left of the Loyalist Titans, maybe 50 engines from Legio Ignatum.
50 against that, it's impossible.
And the traitors had this horrible sorceress advantage. They were deploying resurrected zombie Titans reanimated war engines used as cannon fodder.
The Loyalists must have had some kind of answer to that.
They did. They deployed a Warlord Sinister Psi Titan, a machine designed specifically for psychic warfare. But ultimately, the sheer numbers, the constant bombardment, it was too much. The Legio Ignatum was annihilated. The traitors reached the final Exultan Wall.
The final layer was breached.
Unequivocally. The tide had turned. The last stands were being fought around the Sanctum Imperialis itself. Dorne's own command center, the Baja Bastion, was under siege. The traitors were just a screaming horde sweeping inwards.
There was one last moment of hope, though.
One brief, miraculous moment. Jagatai Khan, Primarch of the White Scars, managed to fight his way to Mortarion, the demon Primarch, and through sheer speed and exploiting Mortarion's arrogance, he actually defeated him, banished him back to the warp. But even that incredible act couldn't change the facts. The end was near.
And this is where the whole thing shifts from tactics and strategy into just pure high drama.
Huh.
The final move that decides the war. It's because of a ticking clock.
It is. Horus, who is monitoring all psychic communications, intercepts a message. It's a message of hope for the Loyalists. Reboot Guilliman's reinforcement fleet is approaching.
And it's a huge fleet.
Enormous. Over 3,200 capital ships. And they are only 9 hours away. For Horus, this is it. This is do or die. His numbers advantage is about to vanish.
So he makes this insane, reckless, but brilliant final move.
The ultimate gambit. He can't afford a protracted fleet battle, so he instantly lowers the void shields on his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit.
An open invitation.
A direct challenge to the Emperor himself. Come aboard and settle this one-on-one before Guilliman can arrive. It was made even more desperate by the fact that the Astronomicon, the guiding light for warp travel, was being attacked and was offline, so Guilliman's fleet was still struggling to navigate the final approach.
And the Emperor, he has to take the bait. The palace would fall in hours anyway.
He takes the final necessary risk. The Emperor, Dorne, Sanguinius, Valdor, and an elite force. They teleport aboard, but it's a trap.
Of course it is.
Horus uses his connection to the ship, which is now basically a part of chaos, and he just scatters them. The physical reality of the ship itself becomes a weapon.
A maze of madness.
Exactly. The corridors twist, time distorts. To make it worse, Horus even seizes control of some of the Emperor's own custodes, turning them into assassins, forcing the Emperor to kill his own guards. Dorne is trapped, completely separated from the final confrontation.
And that separation leads directly to the tragedy of Sanguinius.
Horus, now swollen with the power of all 4 Chaos Gods, deliberately allows Sanguinius to reach him first in Lupercal's court.
Why Sanguinius first?
Because Sanguinius was purity. He was the best of them. And Horus wanted to break that ideal completely. He was preparing for his own apotheosis to become this so-called Dark King, a 5th Chaos God. And he tries to turn Sanguinius. He offers his brother a place by his side.
A final temptation.
The final one. He wanted his perfect brother to fall with him. But Sanguinius refuses. He knows, from his own visions, that he's walking to his death. But he goes anyway. It's this profound act of loyalty, confirming just how far Horus has fallen.
And Horus kills him.
He does. He strikes his brother down just moments before the Emperor arrives, leaving Sanguinius' body there as a final, cruel message. A psychological blow aimed right at his father's heart. The death of Sanguinius. That's the true end of the Age of Heroes.
And now the stage is set. The clash of the millennia. The Emperor, already exhausted, facing Horus, who is now a vessel for the full power of the Chaos Gods. How do you even describe that fight?
The sources describe it as something that transcended physical reality. It was a battle fought in Lupercal's court, yes, but also in the Imperium. Across dimensions, through time and space, all at once. It was the clash of these 2 cosmic beings. But Horus, with the whole pantheon backing him, he was just too powerful.
The Emperor was overpowered.
Almost immediately. Horus was functionally immortal, untouchable. He broke the Emperor's body, severely wounded him, and then in this final act of grotesque arrogance, he nails the Emperor's still living body to a 5th twisted throne he'd built next to ones for the Chaos Gods.
Not just to kill him, but to enslave him.
Exactly, to make him a puppet for eternity. And history turns on what happens next, the actions of 2 mortals.
It proves that even at this cosmic scale, human will still matters.
That's the beautiful tragedy of it. The first intervention is from a custodian, Kaikaltis Dusk. He just bravely refuses to back down and distracts Horus for a fraction of a second. Horus, disgusted, just incinerates him.
And the second. This is the legendary Elanius person.
Elanius person. In some accounts, a perpetual and immortal human. In others, just a regular Imperial army trooper. He's teleported there, sees the Emperor being tortured, and he doesn't hesitate. He just unloads his las gun at the War Master.
A las gun. against a chaos god.
The ultimate act of feudal bravery. And Horus is just so offended by the interruption from this insect, that he contemptuously reduces Elenius to a red mist. But that sacrifice, that was everything. It bought the Emperor the crucial moment he needed, and in some versions, it supplied him with the Atham blade.
So that flash of simple human loyalty, that was the turning point.
It was. It led to the Emperor's final, desperate gambit. He used an illusion, taking the form of his loyal son, Garfield Loken, and even an image of his own corpse, to appeal directly to Horus's one great flaw.
His pride.
His overwhelming pride. The illusion points out that Horus isn't a god, he's a slave, a puppet dancing on the strings of the dark powers.
It's a masterclass in psychological warfare.
And Horus, in his arrogance, falls for it completely. He decides to prove he's still the master of his own fate. He temporarily sheds the power of the Chaos Gods to deliver the final killing blow as a mere Primarch.
Against the protests of the demons around him.
They're shrieking at him, but he ignores them. He raises his weapon, Worldbreaker, and crushes the Emperor's skull.
But that was the opening. The Emperor forced him to disconnect from his power source.
The one opportunity he needed. The illusion vanishes, and the real Emperor launches his final attack. He channels the raw, purifying power of the Astronomicon, which had just been reactivated on Terra by the efforts of Korzuen and Euphrates Keeler, and he focuses it all directly into Horus's brain.
And what happens when that pure light hits the War Master?
Unimaginable agony. The energy of the Astronomicon purges the corruption for just a moment. And in that moment, Horus realizes the Chaos Gods let him do it. They denied him their power as a lesson, treating him like a slave. And that realization, it allows the old Horus, the loyal son, to surface one last time.
And he doesn't want to live.
No. He begs his father to kill him, to grant him mercy, to obliterate him before the Chaos Gods can take control again.
A plea for mercy from a son to his father.
And the Emperor, he hesitates. For just a fraction of a second, he sees the son he lost, but he grants the mercy. He drives the Atham blade through Horus's chest and unleashes all of his remaining power.
Obliterating him.
Completely. Reduces him to a smoking skeleton in charred armor. With their champion gone, the Chaos Gods retreat. Conventional space-time snaps back into place.
The ultimate victory. But the cost.
The cost was everything. The Emperor immediately collapses, mortally wounded. A gouged eye, a mutilated arm, a crushed spine. His body is broken beyond any repair. He saved humanity, but he destroyed himself to do it.
The silence in that throne room must have been deafening. When Dorn and Valdor finally find their way there, what did they see?
They find the Emperor impossibly horribly alive, but dying. They find the body of Sanguinius. And back on Terra, they find the disintegrated dust of Malkador the Sigillite on the Golden Throne.
Malkador's sacrifice. He held the throne while the Emperor was away.
He did. He literally burned his soul out to keep the webway portal sealed, buying the Emperor the time he needed. Another colossal, often overlooked sacrifice. His death ensured Terra didn't fall to demons from within while the final duel was happening.
So with Malkador gone, Dorn and Valdor know what they have to do.
They do. Guided by what one count calls a throne tarot card they find, they return the Emperor's broken body to the Golden Throne. And this is the point of no return. The machinery, designed for the webway, is immediately reconfigured. It becomes the life-sustaining apparatus it is today.
And this cements the Emperor's new existence. The Great Plan is over.
It's completely over. The Emperor, once this vibrant figure with a grand vision for a secular, rational humanity, is now a ravaged corpse, sustained only by ancient tech, his own sheer will, and the daily sacrifice of thousands of psychers.
And he has to stay there. Forever.
Forever. He's simultaneously powering the Astronomicon, the beacon for all space travel, and physically holding that webway breach closed. If he dies, the Astronomicon goes out and Terra is swallowed by the warp. Humanity is doomed.
So the failure of the webway project is now permanent. The age of reason is replaced by an age of desperate faith.
Exactly. The Emperor himself is said to have lamented that his great work was ruined, that humanity was now doomed, whether in a year or 10,000. The trauma of the Heresy forced that shift away from reason.
So what are the immediate, tangible changes that create this new Imperium?
First, you have the Great Scouring. The surviving loyalist Primarchs Guilliman, Dorn, the Khan, the Lion. They immediately begin hunting the traitors into the Eye of Terror. But the real lasting change is political, structural.
Which brings us to the second founding, and the Codex Astartes.
With the Emperor gone, paranoia was rampant. No one wanted another Horus, another single man wielding the power of an entire legion. So Robut Guilliman, who arrives just as the siege ends and becomes the new Lord Commander, he provides the solution, the Codex Astartes.
And what does that fundamentally do?
It breaks the legions. The huge legions, tens of thousands strong, are divided into smaller, self-contained chapters, about 1,000 Marines each.
So it's a military document, but its real purpose is political.
Absolutely. It was designed to decentralize military power so no single commander could ever threaten the Imperium again.
And Dorn, the man who bled for Terra, he resisted this at first, didn't he?
He was intensely skeptical. He saw it as an insult, as Guilliman, who was absent for the worst of it, imposing new rules. But after a period of intense meditation inside his infamous pain glove, he relented. He accepted the new order, and his acceptance solidified it for everyone.
And then the final great philosophical shift, the imperial cult and the Inquisition.
The foundation of the Imperium just violently shifts. The emperor's rational, secular imperial truth is replaced by superstition and religious dogma. Because the emperor is now this suffering martyr god keeping humanity alive, the imperial cult rises and worships him as a divine being. The theocracy begins.
And to enforce this new order, the Inquisition is born from that paranoia.
Its origins are purposefully murky, which is fitting. One story says Malcador selected 12 individuals just before he died and tasked them with fighting the unseen threats, Astartes and humans, the first inquisitors.
And the other version?
Is that it was founded by a few trusted servants right after the emperor was interred. They just sort of appeared before the new ruling council and announced themselves. The point isn't which story is true. The point is they were born in secrecy, in a power vacuum, and they answer to no one but the silent emperor. They are the ultimate expression of this new age of fear and control.
So, we leave the Siege of Terra, not with a triumph, but with just this. Pure, unrelenting tragedy. The Age of Heroes is over. The expanding empire becomes this stagnant, theocratic dystopia run by lords interpreting the will of a living corpse.
The victory was completely Pyrrhic. The emperor himself knew humanity was ultimately doomed. The siege just prolonged its existence at this agonizing cost. Even now, 10,000 years later, the Imperium is still defined by that one fight, the golden light of the Astronomicon. That's the dying will of its corpse god in constant torment.
It's a terrible, relentless cycle. Survival for the sake of suffering. Well, let's end, as we always do, on a thought for you to chew on, going back to Lupercal's court.
Yeah, consider the fates of the two central figures in that final moment. Horus, in his one moment of clarity, begs his father to kill him, a mercy, an obliteration. The emperor grants it and wipes him from existence entirely.
A clean end.
A clean end. Yet the emperor, the victor, the one who faced down the chaos gods themselves, he is forced onto the golden throne for an eternal, continuous, unimaginable torment that has lasted for 10 millennia and is still going. So the question is, was the emperor's victory, his unending life of suffering, actually a greater punishment than Horus's merciful obliteration? What does that choice really say about the cost of sacrifice versus the release of death? It sort of suggests the real punishment wasn't dying, but being forced to live forever, sustaining the broken remnant of your own perfect dream. Something to think about.